Welcome to r/malicious compliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. The first story: guy wanted to be served by a man. I called the general manager. The second story: Josh is lazy but also doesn't want to do his job for him. The OP is told to stop and they do. Surprise, Josh sucks. The third story: I spammed the lease office with 30-day notices till they gave up on holding to my security deposit. Today's first story is: refuse to be served by a woman bartender and ask for a manager? Allow me to introduce you to her. A bit of backstory. I worked at a pub on and off for about 3 years. Not full-time, but rather on a 0-hours contract. Basically, I picked up shifts whenever I was back from uni, paid per shift. They had a decent turnover of back-of-house staff, so as someone who knew pretty much everything in there, I would generally be the person to fix issues whenever a newer member of staff had a problem. So I'm on a barbecue shift, which means I'm running food outside. There's also a bar out there which was taken care of by a female coworker, FC, and every now and then a manager would check up and make sure everything was all right. We had 3 managers on at the time, and they generally helped out wherever was needed. Nobody was afraid to get their hands dirty. It was a quiet night, so we were basically chilling out there, serving the occasional burger or drink. Well, I go in to help out on glasses, since as always it was backed up, and when I came back out again, this guy was basically standing angrily by the bar. FC is visibly upset, not crying or anything, but clearly not having a good time, and as I walk up, this guy sees my apron and puts his hands on his hips. Finally, get me your manager. I want this girl gone, he says, or words to that extent. Now, I'm understandably doubtful she's done anything that bad, especially since she's relatively new. So before doing anything, I bring FC round the back and ask her. Turns out she's messed up this guy's pint, and he's gone off about how women can't pour beer, and that she shouldn't even be there. It was a man's job, etc. I told her I'd sort it out, leave him with me and you can continue to watch the bar in the meanwhile. Now, I wasn't gonna let this go unpunished, so here's where the compliance comes in. Remember, there are 3 managers on at the time. 2 are on the floor currently, both men and both perfectly capable of sorting this out, but the third was a female. We'll call her Kate. Now, Kate was the most senior manager on, hence why she was in the office sorting out admin and emails, etc., and she took absolutely no SH whatsoever. For reference, when she finally left the pub, it was to go to work as a prison officer. She was a good manager for getting things done, but definitely not afraid to stamp her authority if need be. In short, not someone you want to be on the wrong end of. You can guess which manager I went to. She was at first annoyed I was trying to drag her all the way outside, but when I explained fully, she just stopped typing, stood up and told me to lead the way, which I did, smiling all the way, because I knew exactly what was coming next. I lead her down, and as the guy sees us approaching, his face just falls off a cliff. I've never seen anyone go from angry to OSH that quickly ever since. It was just glorious. Kate is of course very polite, but makes a point of introducing herself as head manager of the pub. Not strictly true, but it got the job done. He stutters about having his pint messed up, and she tells him he can have another one on the house. Then she proceeds to go behind the bar and pour it herself, before handing it to him. I can feel how badly he wants to complain about it from across the bar, but eventually he takes his drink and walks off without another word. Kate just gives me a look and a little smile before walking back to the office. Yes, it probably would have been more efficient to do literally anything else to resolve this whole thing. In fact, I probably could have just calmed a drink myself, and he would have peeved off, but oh, the result was worth it. Edit. I'll try to answer a few of the questions in the comments. How did she mess up the pint? I don't know for certain, but I'm like 80% sure she had too much head. The outside bar has a limited selection of beers, and cider strangely enough on tap, but you have to roll the kegs down there yourself, and get whatever manager is doing them to change them over. Depending on who rolls them, they can be pretty lively, especially if the keg is full or almost empty. Why did she give him a free beer? It wasn't exactly free, since he'd already paid for the first one and refused it, but we still had to put a pint as wastage on the system, so it worked out that way. Thing is, this pub is part of a chain, running in price, so reputation is much more valuable than a single beer or whatever. Granted, he was an a-hole, but as much as I'd have loved to pour his beer on his head, I'm pretty sure I would have been in deep SH with Regional for doing so. I assume that's the same reason Kate didn't go off on him as well, but I don't know for certain. Long story short, you don't shout at customers. You smile and put up with it. Sucks, but that's how it was. What's the deal with her being new and less likely to make a mistake? Usually the newer someone is, the more likely they are to make mistakes. The thing is though, these are usually small problems, like following protocol and not knowing one part. And from the way he was reacting, you'd think she'd actively insulted him or done something serious. Knowing how strictly new hires follow the rules, I doubted she'd done anything that warranted that reaction. But I did ask her to make sure first. I'm there to solve problems after all, not to make them. Was this guy real? Unfortunately, yes. Truth be told, he's not even the worst I've had to deal with. A few people see a single bartender and no managers and like to try one on, though almost none of them are genuinely rude. The outside bar closes a little earlier than the inside one, but people really like to try getting free stuff while we're closing down. Admittedly, it might be because we're allowed one staff drink if we're on a closed shift, and the chefs will usually just pour themselves one in normal clothes, but I don't know. Edit 2. Since everyone seems to be asking about it, this was in England. I won't say exactly where since I already named the chain and don't want people looking the place up, but I will say it's just outside of London. It's malicious compliance because the customer wanted OP to get a manager, thinking the manager would be male and take customer's side. But OP got a female manager, therefore maliciously complying with the request. She proved him wrong by making a good drink, acting professionally and being a GD general manager. At my last job, I was the only female bartender for a while, until I became general manager, and all the guy coworkers laughed about how I could handle more business than any of them and make better drinks. One time a customer came in, saw me, and demanded to be served by a man. He didn't know that I had been working for over 10 years and making the best cocktail in the bar. I called a colleague who had been working for about 2 months and asked him to make the drink this customer had ordered. The customer got his order, but wanted the same cocktail that I make. I refused to make him a cocktail because I'm a woman, and he wanted a man to serve him. He left and I never saw him again. The second story is, Josh is on the grill until 11:55, so stop pestering him and do your station. Was reminded by another post about my time in fast food and how I maliciously complied. Anyways, back in college I worked at an on-campus fast food place. Your basic burgers, fries, wraps, and small salads. My shift started at 11:25 doing wraps until 11:55 when Josh left, and I manned the grill and someone else did wraps. Now Josh was a typical Josh, and it was his way or the highway. He'd get really mad when I'd throw more burgers on the grill, or flip something while he was trying to chat up with the dishwasher. I did this because he had no understanding of how much food was required to feed college kids during the small breaks between classes. Eventually he complained enough that I was told, Josh is on the grill until 11:55, so stop pestering him and do your station. So I did. I stopped touching the grill. The next shift he leaves at 11:55, and I get on the grill and immediately throw down 40 frozen raw burger patties. 2 minutes later, the cashier starts yelling, "Where are the burgers?" Sorry, I just got on the grill, and Josh only had 5 in the warmer and 3 in the window. I know we always have about 100 students between 11:55 and 12:20, and they almost all get the burger meal, but I was told to not touch the grill. The burgers finish after a few minutes, and the next batch goes on, but the grill is cooled a little so they take even longer. The line of kids waiting for food is longer than the line ordering, and management is peeved. I get chewed out for not being fast enough, and just ask, do you want raw burgers or to talk to Josh? It only took one more shift of this for them to realize that my meddling was actually what kept us afloat during the lunch rush. I'd often cook an entire grill of burgers while he was swinging and miss the dishwasher. They eventually printed out a sheet of how many burgers and chicken, etc. needed to be prepped for certain rush times, and gave Josh a very stern talking to about how to be a team player. Also, Josh sucked because he'd cook all the burgers well done. Like really well done. Then they'd sit in the warmer for another 5 to 15 minutes. He didn't know how to rotate either, so you were eating GD hockey pucks. He ruined so much ground beef. He eventually got moved to salads and stock because he couldn't be trusted with anything that was fast-paced. Management saw how much faster everything moved when he wasn't joshing everything up. Josh sucks. The OP saved Josh's A until he stopped. Then Josh crashed and burned. This guy was talentless since he couldn't handle burger patties, but maybe Josh did that SH on purpose so he could be out of production and relax making salads and stocks. Haha. I remember being a quick order guy in college. You really had to anticipate the rush and get ahead of the flow, and there were times when I had to stand firm on special orders that people made. But I also remember a guy who was like Josh. He was doing everything wrong and getting in the way of everybody's work. One time he forgot he was frying cutlets because he went out to smoke and served everyone burned burgers. He got fired after that. Managers pretty rarely ignore what's going on during a rush, especially one they know is coming every day. Did you get any rewards for doing the right thing? The last story is, Nothing beats scummy landlords during COVID shutdown. I hated my old apartment, needed to desperately get out, and right when I was looking for rentals last year, coronavirus hit and everyone shut down. With less than a week on my lease, I had to jump at the first available home. Didn't even get to inspect it. I ended up with equally horrible property managers. I didn't have a key on day one. Had to break in to move in. They didn't tell me about the German roach infestation. It's okay, I used to do pest control so I managed, and so forth. Right when I lost power during Christmas, also okay, I live in the South. I didn't get too cold. I tracked down the original property owner and asked her if I could get out of the contract and just pay her directly. We investigated many options, and the best way to get out of the contract was to just pay for the last remaining months and write a 30-day notice. They call me and tell me that I have to write them a notice, signed and sent and received on the exact date 30 days from the lease's end, to be accepted, or I will lose my $1,000 security deposit. They really stressed it had to be mailed, and definitely on time, or they won't be able to accept it. Cue my pettiness. I wrote a template letter with a generic "this is a number of days till lease end day" notice. I'm writing to terminate my contract and to receive my security deposit as stated. I sent one out on my 103-day notice, then another one on 89-day notice, then another one on 73-day notice, and so forth. Basically, whenever I remembered about it, I would change the date around, print it, sign it, and then mail it. They call me saying this is very unnecessary, that they got my message loud and clear, but they sounded pretty rude about it, so I sent some more. I then received some passive-aggressive emails that they will honor the contract and leave me the $1,000 deposit, as I've sent them a 30-day notice. But they can be tricky, and as I haven't technically sent them an exact 30 days notice, I have some more letters to send. Plus, again, they sounded pretty rude over email. Cue the final 15-day countdown till my 30-day notice letter. I upped the ante. I now have one letter per day to send, and I've changed the fonts on each letter ranging from Papyrus to Joker Man to Comic Sans. My favorite one is the one where it's all bright yellow and barely legible. It just hurts looking at. Oh, and better yet, I got the last batch sent as certified mail, so I get an email that they received it and that they had to sign it. On my 34th day notice letter, now probably the 20th letter I've mailed, I received my cashier's check back. No message or anything. Fortunately, I have 4 more letters to send. The best $43 on stamps I've ever paid. I can imagine how many letters they received. It's like the scene from Harry Potter when a lot of letters flew into the house. Sneaky landlords are bad, but so are tenants who are fully capable of paying rent but use the law and COVID to punish hardworking landlords. I think the hardworking landlords are the ones who are really good at fixing things, and not doing it the cheapest way we can think of. I haven't seen one of those in a long time. When it says 30 days notice, it means at least 30 days notice, not exactly 30 days notice. Most likely they intentionally misinterpreted the wording to inconvenience you, knowing that if the person sends the notice earlier, or somehow the notice doesn't arrive exactly on the appointed day, they'll try to use that as an excuse. Good for you for beating them at their own game. Your landlord should have fixed all the problems and then everything ended well. But on the other hand, we didn't get that malicious compliance. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button